Call this meeting to order. Mr. Callahan is absent, a planned absence today, so I'm sitting in his seat today. And we will start with an opening prayer by Mr. DeVillio, followed by the pledge. If you will please rise.
Dear Heavenly Father, we ask that you inspire us to be instruments of your compassion, offering genuine presence, comfort, and hope to those we meet. Since we often feel overwhelmed, help us take care of each other and remember to take care of ourselves as well. Help us to be patient with one another and with ourselves. And when recognizing a moment of grace, we take that opportunity to honor and reward it. We ask that you watch over all of our healthcare workers, especially those whose patients will not recover. And remind us in our hearts and in our minds that you gave us purpose. And though we may not understand your reasons and timing, we take comfort in your plan and your eternal love. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. DeVillio. Council has an agenda before it. Are there any additions or deletions from the agenda?
Council President, or Vice President Lesher, I would like to make it a motion to amend the agenda to remove item G under the County Manager's report and bring it back at a later time.
There's a second to do so?
No objection.
No objection.
No objection. There's no objection. Chair will move that the amended agenda be approved by unanimous consent. Council has disbursements for November 2nd and November 9th. Are there any questions regarding the disbursements? Hearing none, the chair moves that the disbursements be approved by unanimous consent. And next we have a proclamation for National Hospice and Palliative Care Month. If the Secretary will read the proclamation into the record, please.
Proclamation, National Hospice and Palliative Care Month, November 2021. Whereas for more than 40 years, hospice has helped provide comfort and dignity to millions of people, allowing them to spend their final months at home, surrounded by their loved ones, and as Medicare's first proven coordinated care model, hospice is a program that works, offering person-centered, compassionate care, ensuring people dignity, choice, and quality of life. And whereas the hospice model involves an interdisciplinary, team-oriented approach to treatment, including expert medical care, quality symptom control, and comprehensive pain management as a foundation of care. And whereas, beyond providing physical treatment, hospice attends to the patient's emotional, spiritual, and family needs and provides family services like respite care and bereavement counseling. And whereas, palliative care delivers expertise to improve quality of life and relief from pain, can be provided at any time during an illness, and hospices are some of the best providers of community-based palliative care. And whereas a growing body of peer-reviewed research indicates that timely access to hospice and palliative care can decrease hospitalizations and emergency room visits and increase quality of life for patients and family caregivers. And whereas every year more than 1.5 million Americans living with life-limiting illness and their families receive care from the nation's hospice programs and communities throughout the United States. And whereas hospice and palliative care organizations are advocates and educators about advanced care planning that help individuals make decisions about the care they want. And whereas the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services have pledged to put patients first in all of its programs, including hospice, ensuring a coordinated and patient-led approach to care, protecting patient choice and access to individualized services based on a patient's unique care needs and wishes. Now therefore be it resolved that we, the County Council of Talbot County, do hereby proclaim November 2021 as National Hospice and Palliative Care Month in Talbot County, encourage citizens to increase their understanding and awareness of care at the end of life, and to observe this month with appropriate activities and programs. Given in our hands in the Great Seal of Talbot County this 9th day of November in the year of our Lord, 2021.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to
So moved.
move the proclamation?
Second.
Madam Secretary, if you would call the roll.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Mr. DeVillio?
Aye.
Ms. Price?
Aye.
Mr. Pack?
Aye.
And
Who do we have here?
with this, Mr. DeVillio will present this, or anybody who is with, we have Mia Cranford, and anybody who cares to accompany you up here. Talk about your work.
Thank you for having us here today. We have brought our team with us today. Sorry. We have our team with us.
Why don't you take a seat first, and then you can go ahead and address the council. You can get behind her, and then we'll bring you guys up for the photo. How will we do that? That way we can get you at the mic and hear your responses appropriately. I'm sorry, Mr. Lesher, just wanna.
Thank
Nope,
you.
that's fine.
This is the voice of experience over here.
And then we'll bring you guys up.
They scatter.
I gave them way out, I'm sorry.
No, we brought our team with us. You know, we are part of an interdisciplinary team that takes care of our patients. We helped over 300 hospice patients last year and over 105 on palliative care. Our Talbot Hospice is an integral part of this community, and you guys are a great support to us in everything that we do here. We have a home-based home-based care that Dawn runs. We have the in-house hospice, which we have 12 beds, as you well know, which we had to, during COVID, tamp down a little bit, but we're back up to running to 12 beds and running full speed ahead. So I'm happy to answer anything that I can if you have any questions.
I had, I think, just pre-COVID, the opportunity to tour the expanded facilities, and what Talbot has here, both in terms of its facilities and its services, is something truly exceptional. And I have a relation who's dealing with end-of-life care out in California, and not everybody has the resources available that Talbot Hospice offers here. So it is, we truly value the work we do and know what a gem Talbot Hospice is to the Talbot County community.
Thank you. Our nurses hold people's hands, and one day somebody will hold their hands, and that's how they look at it. So they're walking people home. So
I would echo what Mr. Lesher just said as well. Thank you all for all that you do for the families that you care for, and as well as for your patients, to make sure, as you said, welcoming them home in their final stage of life here. My 15 years on the council, this is one of those resolutions that I've always looked forward to presenting, because my mother as well was in hospice care back in 1999, and I know how closely my family relied on those nurses and the staff to put us at ease. So I know what families go through during a very difficult and sensitive time. So thank you, ladies, very much for doing this year in, year out. We really appreciate it, and I know the families here in Talbot County do as well.
we have run a year-long campaign that we are running again called Know Us Before You Need Us. We are big advocates of people who aren't even in the thought process of hospice, of learning about us, because sometimes when you are in the moments, you can't really comprehend everything that you need to know. So anytime that we can bring awareness to what we do when people are not needing us, then when they do need us, they're able to recall things that they've passively learned. And we've put a booklet together that I will actually send each of you a copy that will help. It's all stories of different people that have gone through hospice, and they're really great because people learn through stories and through other people's experiences. And we think it helps people to know us before you need us.
Before Mr. DeVille, could I ask if you wouldn't mind identifying the people that are with you?
Sure. Actually, I'm going to ask each of them. Go ahead.
My name is Dawn Ruby. I'm a clinical home care manager.
And then,
Tracy Corbin, Human Resources. Megan Murray, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Volunteer pathways coordinator. Jenny Blackston, I'm the palliative care coordinator.
And Colby Hall, I'm the clinical manager of the hospice house.
Thank you.
And Mia Cranford, I'm the director of development.
Well, I too had I had experience with my grandmother. It's been a long time. It's been 10 years, but I just remember at the end of her life, and she had been in the nursing homes, and while they try, they just don't have the same, I guess, resources that you all do, and it was such a blessing. We knew it was sad, but when she got moved there, that the end was so much more special, and I was always amazed at the heart that people have to do this 365 days of the year. The volunteers that you have in there, I mean, it's one thing when it's your job, but the compassion that they have, and it's not even their own family member, just really touched my heart when she was there. And like I said, it's been about 10 years, but I'm very appreciative for what you do there. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We are blessed with volunteers that are amazing.
Yes, they are.
And our CNAs and our nurses, our staff we're blessed. Thank you.
It's a gift.
It is a gift.
So I served on Hospice of Queen Anne's back when it was Hospice of Queen Anne's on their board, and so it gave me a good glimpse really into the services that are provided. And I like to go back to Joe Gamble's example of this community being a wagon wheel and everybody's a spoke in it. And thinking through hospice and going to your website, I love that one of the things it says on there is nobody ever knows when to call hospice, when to reach out, and it says right on there, if you've come here, then it's time to call us. And I think that means a lot to the community, that you're there for that, and all types of care, and it's in the bereavement as well for the families. It's not just the patients, and I think that's incredibly important to make sure that we get that word out, because hospice care, you take care of all walks of life, young and old. I know Dr. Griffith is even on your website with a video talking about the children and the effect that it's had on them and the bereavement counseling that's provided. So I greatly appreciate the service that you provide, and I know that you have one of the most challenging jobs there as well, because these services are not always covered by insurance. And so it does take private donations to continue the great care that you provide. I just can't think of a more worthy cause than taking care of our dying citizens that are here. So thank you for all of your efforts that you do. And of course, I read the obituaries every single day. It doesn't surprise me how many people receive hospice care and like to recognize you in that, and in the little bit of history of their life, the families recognizing you because you've done such a wonderful job taking care of them. And I think that right there says the biggest statement of all of how well the care is provided.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, we can do the photo.
Now we can
Now we can do the photo.
bring the team up and get
All right. Now-
the proclamation presented to you.
Sure.
Head right up front. Put your smiles on. You want me to take a picture with your camera as well? Would you like to take a picture? Sure. Okay, oh, good grouping. A little bit. There we go, perfect. Okay. Now, perfect. One more. Beautiful group of people. Great. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And next we have a proclamation for Animal Shelter Appreciation Week. Madam Secretary, if you would read the proclamation into the record.
Proclamation, National Animal Shelter Appreciation Week, November 9th, 7th through the 13th, 2021. Whereas animal shelters are vital resources in communities throughout the United States, serving as a safe haven for animals, a great place to adopt a new family pet, and as a place which provides critical services, including reuniting lost pets with their owners, teaching children to care about animals, offering spay-neuter services to help reduce the pet overpopulation, and investigating cruelty and neglect complaints. And whereas of the estimated 6 to 8 million homeless animals that seek refuge in the 3,500 mostly nonprofit animal shelters in the United States each year, only approximately half are adopted. And of the 63% of American households which include pets, fewer than 20% of those pets were adopted from shelters. And whereas National Animal Shelter Appreciation Week is the perfect opportunity to become acquainted with local animal shelters by adopting a pet and giving it a second chance, by being a responsible pet owner and not letting your pet run loose, spaying or neutering, and providing the pet with an identification collar or microchipping in the event it does get lost. And by donating supplies and funding to the shelters, which depend on the support of the community in their efforts to help the animals in their care. Now therefore be it resolved that we, the County Council of Talbot County, do hereby proclaim November 7th through the 13th, 2021 as National Animal Shelter Appreciation Week in Talbot County. Recognize the important role of the local animal shelters in our communities and the hardworking individuals who are employed or volunteer there, and encourage citizens to support the local animal shelter in their community. Given under our hands in the Great Seal of Talbot County this 9th day of November in the year of our Lord, 2021.
Thank you. Mr. Pack will move it. We have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary, if you would call the roll, please.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Mr. DeVillio?
Aye.
Ms. Price?
Aye.
Mr. Pack?
And Ms. Quimby, would you like to come forward and speak about hospice? No. If you would like to speak about Talbot Humane.
Yeah, Talbot Humane. Although hospice is very important in my family. My mother's one of those volunteers, and I agree, I don't know how they do what they do, so. Thank you for acknowledging National Animal Shelter Appreciation Week. This is actually one of my favorite times of year because it gives me a reason to celebrate my staff every day this week with treats and prizes and things that we get donated. They do a lot of work, 365 days a year. We have staff on duty, and it's important for our community to realize that, and we appreciate you acknowledging the need and importance of a humane and progressive shelter in our community. I wanted to share some trends with you. Of course, when I was here in July, I gave you the fiscal year numbers. So the first quarter of this fiscal year, our intake is up by 20% from last year, but that was expected. Last year was an anomaly of low intake animals, and this is a trend across the country. It's in line with pre-COVID, so we're not concerned about those numbers. You may have heard about animals being surrendered in droves after COVID. People are dumping animals in shelters. We have seen no evidence of that here, and across the country, there's not really evidence of that. You know, it's sensational to say that, but we're not really seeing that. We're seeing more surrenders because of housing issues, because of the lift on the moratorium of evictions. So we're seeing other problems, but it's not people just tired of pets. Our current shelter population is 122 animals, 105 felines, 13 canines, 4 small mammals, and of course our office bird. And we have 23 animals in foster care. This is in line with normal time this year. This is our highest time for especially cats. So please come adopt. There is no adoption fee for felines. Our animal control, we have one officer again right now. One officer, thank goodness for Officer Gonzalez, and I'm the other officer right now when I need to go out on the road. 119 initial complaints. That does not include public assistance, delivering food to the people, transportation of animals to the vet, and we are searching for another officer. So if anybody out there would like to apply, please do. We have seen an increase in complaints of cruelty and neglect, and this again is something that we're seeing as a trend across the area and country. The concerns of mental health, domestic changes from the pandemic, and stressors are all theories why this is happening. Our goal is to do what we can to ensure people have the skills they need, if they need help. We often hear people, when they talk about an animal being neglected, it's often because people don't know where to turn or what programs are out there to help them. So our intervention program has really been life-changing for the animals here on the Midshore. We encourage residents who are in need of pet food, supplies, such as crates to train indoor pets, litter pan issues, behavior assistance, medical intervention for acute needs, to please contact our office. That's what we are here for. Those programs have helped us reduce intake of the shelter. We are estimating over the past 2 years, approximately 200 animals did not enter our shelter because of this program. To give you a little numbers for this calendar year, January to October, 719 citizen-owned pets were spayed and neutered, 321 shelter pets were spayed and neutered, 100 citizen-owned pets received above and beyond care, such as tooth extractions, mass removals during those spay-neuter surgeries. We had 21 feline behavioral consultations, 6 canine behavioral consultations, 17 above and beyond vet procedures were provided, and we microchipped 723 animals. So we're hoping to end strong this calendar year, and those numbers obviously will continue to grow. Our microchips are only $10. We encourage the public to have your pet microchipped and keep that information up to date, because if we don't have a number, we can't reach you. Microchip's useless.
Well, I'm thinking of it, can
Sure.
I ask you that question right now?
Sure.
What information is in the microchip? Just a phone number, or is there an address tied to it? What actually
So
goes into it?
it's actually just a sequence of numbers. We call a number. They'll give us the information. They usually won't give the public if
Right, but
somebody finds your
If an
dog.
owner has to change it.
Yes, you just go online to whatever microchip you have. We can scan the animal and give you the correct microchip so that you can go online. So if people don't know what their microchip number is, or they've lost the information.
Well, I was just curious, is it
Yeah.
just as a name and a phone number? Is there an address?
It has
on the
everything
microchip?
attached to it.
Okay.
When animals are microchipped, but that's not provided to the general public. Generally, shelters are the only ones, or veterinarians, who can get all of that information.
Because we hear about it all the time. It's like, well, what information's actually in there?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, when you register, all that information that you provide is provided in there. And also a alternate contact. So if you're out of the country, somebody else can be called.
Thank you.
Sure. We received, again, for 2022, the Department of Agriculture Spay-Neuter Grant. This will be our 8th year receiving this grant. We are receiving $31,530 to spay and neuter 500 dogs within Talbot and Dorchester counties. We're continuing to offer our senior internships, and we have an opening for after the new year. So if anybody has children who are juniors or seniors who are going into the animal sciences, we would love to have them as our intern at the shelter, excuse me. We always need volunteers. We have many things coming up. An example, we just had 46 runners and 3 coaches complete the historic half marathon Saturday. We have trained them through the past 12 weeks. It takes a lot of bodies and time. Volunteers are useful for that. They raised over $26,000 for the shelter. We have a holiday boutique opening on Friday right next to the shelter where the old rectory was. I'm very excited about that. It's going to have unique gifts, local artisans. So come shop, and you're supporting your local shelter. And we have fun things coming up for the holidays. We have Santa coming for pets and people. And of course, our cookie walk is returning this year. And I shared in July, but I'm super excited to share about our 90th anniversary next year, August 3rd. 2022 will be our 90th anniversary of serving the community, and we have a lot of fun things coming up. So I just want to thank you for having me and listening to my, I could talk about the shelter for hours, so. But we very much appreciate your continued support of all we do at the shelter.
Thank you. My household is one of those that has adopted from Talbot Humane in the past, and we remain very happy with our adoptee. But thank you for all you do and for the services that you provide to the community.
Well, yeah, Pat, again, thank you for all that you and your staff do for the animal population here in Talbot County. I'm also glad to hear that during the crisis that the pandemic that we're still enduring, I know that one of the things that your department was very helpful in, along with Geneva and her staff, is making sure that when we did our food banks, that we also included pet food in our food bank.
Yes.
So that if citizens were hit with loss of income, they could still use the food bank to come in and get those provisions. So
Most definitely.
I'm glad to see that there wasn't a mad rush to abandon pets due to that.
Right.
That we had put that in place during our COVID response efforts. So
Yes,
Okay.
we've had our pet pantry since 2008, and it's been ebb and flow of need, but it's been very used in the past 2 years, so,
right, sure it has been. Thank you.
thanks.
And I would just like to echo, I greatly appreciate the services you provide. Similar to hospice, there's a lot of services that are provided that many of the community don't know until they desperately need it, and then they're looking for a resource. And that's one thing that you have really excelled in, is putting the name out there, letting everyone know all of the services, and making yourself readily available, whether it's through the running, through the donations, the Santa, all the events that you do. You do a great job of branding yourself and making sure that everybody in the community knows. And animals are like a family member to most of this community, and so you're basically the foster home. You have the orphans, and it's great to see the volunteers that are coming in, and just as any other, as teachers going back, there's a great benefit of when you get to go in, you see the animals, you take care of them, and then go home feeling much better about it, even if you didn't take one home.
Right.
Hopefully you do. And so animals are a great benefit to all, and right now with mental health as crazy as it is, they're a great person or a little body there to keep you and help you get through it. So thank you for taking care of them and keeping them off the streets and where they wouldn't be safe. And
Thank you.
So thank you.
And I echo that. My pets have helped my mental health through the past 2 years, very much so. Yes. And the shelter pets, too. I have office pets and I have home pets. So.
If you'd like to come forward, and Mr. Travelli will present the proclamation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have a presentation of the 2020 to 2021 annual report for the Talbot County Public Schools. Dr. Griffith, our superintendent, and board president Susan Delean-Botkin. Welcome.
Very nice to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Hey, Susan, thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
And Dr. Griffith, we might start off by congratulating you on being named Superintendent of the Year.
Well, I thank you. I thank you. I'm going to take this off, if that's okay.
We've long known what a gem we have, and it's nice to see that the rest of the state now knows as well.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. So we're here this evening to share with you our annual report from last year. We're really proud of a lot of accomplishments. It was a rough year last year, but we were very innovative and creative during the school year to make sure that our students were in. We were one of the counties that had our students in the most in person. And I think that comes with everyone working as a team, making sure safety's first, and going at a pace that is appropriate when it comes to making decisions and making transitions. We have an amazing team here. Those Wednesday COVID calls, I know Geneva's in the back. Thank you, Geneva, for doing that, because it really helps keep us abreast of what's going on in our community, because the community transmission is what keeps us either in school or out of school. So we really appreciate that. So we're here tonight to walk you through the annual report, and really the PowerPoint is just each page of the annual report. So the first page is just absolutely beautiful children. And I think, let's see, do I just go?
I think you just scroll down.
Okay, I can do that too. There we go. The first page is our children. The second page, maybe Susan would introduce her fellow board members.
We have fabulous board members, as I am sure you know. Mr. Michael Garman, I haven't had dinner, is our Vice President, Candace Henry, Emily Jackson, April Montevidilac, Mr. Otis Sampson, Mary Wheeler. And then we have two student board members. We have Joel Dua, he's from Easton High School, and Macy Montevidilac, who also happens to be April's daughter, is our student member from St. Michael's.
Yes, and I have to say, having two student board members, and you remember, I believe it was Jalen Money that changed that law so we could have two student board members, and it's been a delight because they really do go around to the schools and report on everything that's happening from a student's perspective to the board, and I think that's been really helpful. So if we keep on scrolling down, the one thing I can share with you about our demographics. During the pandemic last year, we kept our enrollment around 4,500, about 4,524. The year before was more in the 4,600s, so we definitely were down last year by about 130 students. We are up a little bit this year, 30 more students, but not back to where we were the year before. Our demographics have remained, this demographics has us at 54% white and 22% Hispanic. This year is 53% white and 24% Hispanic. So the Hispanic population is growing in our school system, and that does reflect sometimes some of our resource needs. I can also tell you that we do have about 10% for special education, and our English language learner population has grown from 11% to 12% this year. Homeless last year, at all times last year was 121. We currently have 168 homeless now, this early in the school year. So that is something we're keeping an eye on, and we're making sure that, and those are the ones we know about. But that is as a result of the pandemic, with some people losing their jobs. And we have about 673 employees. We break it down by teachers and administrators and support staff. And of course, we can't do this job without our support staff. They're amazing, and we've been very blessed. So the next page takes us to our strategic plan. And what we basically did was we finished up our Vision 2020 plan. We brought that same group back together, added some people that may needed to be filled in with the same category. And they did a SOAR analysis. They looked at our strengths and opportunities and really looked to see what were we able to accomplish and what we did not accomplish. And how that strategic plan came out was basically if everyone felt in that committee, we still need to work on a diverse population. Our workforce does not mirror our student population when it comes to demographics. So we need to continue to work on that. That's really important. Another thing that we want to continue to do is promote within and really do our Grow Our Own program and really try to support that. And I can tell you this year we did hire 10 of our teachers this year were from a couple of our Grow Our Own programs. We had 4 people that were hired this year that were IAs and became teachers. That is employee to work program. And then we had 6 from that actually went into education that graduated from either St. Michael's or Easton, and then they were employed as teachers this year. So we were very excited to see those programs working. But we want to continue thinking of things out of the box to retain them. The second one was academic equity. We feel like that we need to continue to really look to make sure that we don't have obstacles in front of children that want to take certain courses, and we want to make sure that everyone has opportunity. We also want to disaggregate our data to make sure that we don't have any gaps. I'm very proud that last school year, and you'll see in a few minutes, we had one of the highest graduation rates and the lowest dropout rates than we've ever had in Talbot County. But what I'm most proud of is we closed those achievement gaps. So we don't have as much of a gap between the different races in the graduation rate and dropout rate. And that's really key. It's important to focus on each individual child. And the other one is social emotional learning, and to be honest, that came out of the pandemic last year. There was a lot of discussion. This plan was written with that committee during the pandemic, and a lot of people knew that was going to be something that we needed to do, which is why we applied for the AWARE grant. And I know I've talked to you about the AWARE grant. That's giving us about $1 million each year for the next 5 years to get social workers in our school, mental health therapists in our school, and to really do some community partnerships. I know we have a mental health awareness day tomorrow that you all were invited to the training, and also the board members and community members. So we're now taking the mental health workshops that we've given our staff, we're getting out into our community partners, and we're also getting out to our parents and doing more with our students. So we do think that that's going to be time well spent, and it's definitely really exciting to see that we got this grant. It's perfect timing, if you will. And if you take a look at the next page, these were all the accomplishments that we had this past year. And I don't know if you want to highlight a few of them, but I know the first one is Easton Elementary School, and we couldn't have done that without you all. That's for sure.
We tremendously appreciate that, and I am sure you also know that we have now gotten national recognition and will be receiving the LEAD Award, and each of you will be getting an invitation to the ceremony for that. That is coming up in December. Some things that are really exciting are expanding the apprenticeships and the internship opportunities throughout the county, as well as implementing the new nursing program at Easton High School. We've got really high-quality leadership that is involved in that, and the whole, I think, county can appreciate how much that's going to benefit us, including hospice. All the ladies have gone home, however.
They're going to appreciate those CNAs when they graduate.
They definitely will. We've adopted some new curriculum, particularly for Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. This is something we have to keep up with at all times. As you know how fast everything is going electronically, I know I can't even begin to do half the stuff my grandchildren do, and so this is where it all starts, right here in our schools, and earlier and earlier. Kelly already mentioned the additional social workers that are so desperately needed this year, and the additional training that all staff are getting and being offered to their parents as well. And then we had the grants, and we will be getting more information to you about the Easton High School roof, but that, as we all are working together on that to get that completed, we were only able to do part of it this year.
We are at 50%, so
Okay.
we're on target to keep going and get finished a little bit earlier than we expected, but that's good too. So.
Okay. Another thing, I mean, we nurture our children's education, but we have to feed them too, and this is extremely important that all children are offered free breakfast and free lunch through the Farms program. And there is no discrimination. Anybody can have the free meal. Doesn't matter which economic or social class you come from. And then we've expanded our pre-K program, which you also know about. This is very exciting for us. And we've added network cabling. And I just had a conversation earlier today in my office about children who were unable to attach to the internet in order to get their education during the main parts of the pandemic, and we're working to resolve that. And some of that came through grants, and then we also have Easternet utilities working on it. Mr. Pack, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Susan. Did you say, in the book here it says lunch and breakfast. Did you say both lunch and breakfast
Yes.
were free?
Yes.
And they have it again this year too. It's through the federal
I
government.
thought it was just breakfast, but lunch as well.
Both.
So does anybody pay, or just?
Not this year,
So-
or nor
so
last year.
You can't, even if you wanted to?
If you want to buy extra, like a la
Ice
carte.
cream.
Yeah, a la carte.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
And the last thing I think that was big on here was, we've raised over $500,000 on our education foundation. So that's going right back into grants to our students and our teachers, so we're excited about that. So then if we go to academic excellence, and I hit on this a little bit, but we did take our graduation rate in the past 8 years from 85% to 96%, and our dropout rate went from 10% to 2%. This past year, we had 335 graduates. We have seen a decrease of students going on to 2 to 4 year college. It used to be more of an 80%, now it's 68%. I think this was mainly because of the pandemic, to be honest with you. Some kids did not go to college this past year for the pure fact that it was going to be online, so some of them decided not to go, even if they were accepted. But we also are seeing more kids going right to work because we have more CTE programs that offer certification. So if they get certified, they can go right into the world of work. Just so you know, right now, this is not in this report because this is this school year, but we have 6 students up at Queen Anne's County doing the firefighter EMT program. That's the most we've ever had, but we're starting to see more interest in those kinds of programs. We also have students taking welding through Chesapeake College. Some of that's offered at the Chesapeake Maritime Museum as well. And we have small engine repair, which is a big one that a lot of our students are interested in. I know Susan talked about the CNA program, but last year was the first time we got NJROTC is now a CTE completer, which is really exciting for the students that might be wanting to go into the military. They can count that towards their graduation requirements.
So Kelly, since we had probably a strange year where not as many children, young adults, went to the 2 or 4 year institutions, do you track that though? If they went a year later, will you kind of recapture that information?
We don't. We don't have a way to do that because after they're 18, we don't have access. We do survey them, but we don't have all of them that answer. I wish we had that data. That is a data point that we have asked many times through Maryland State Department of Education, isn't there any way we can actually track that data? Because to me, that's so important. Because we also have students that go to college, but then they leave after their first year.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's vice versa. They might wait a year, or they might go or leave after a year. But we don't have access to that information.
It'd be interesting to have the graduation rates from the college, whether
Absolutely.
it's 2 or 4 years.
Absolutely.
And it's kind of a self-selected thing, I guess, if
Yes.
they choose to answer a survey.
Yeah, it is. But I am excited about the students that are getting certified. I know the CNA program, you probably know Chad Wenzer. He's one of our very own, graduated from our school system. He's teaching the certified nursing assistant program at the high school. But our kids are getting more into the CTE programs and going into the world of work. Our students earn more, almost, their goal was 20 million. They earned 19 million in scholarships. And we did have about 46% of our graduates did 1 or more CTE completers for graduation.
I got another question.
Sure.
I always wondered about the scholarships. I know when it's been a few years since my boys were there, but they would get accepted at, however many colleges, and each college would offer a scholarship. But of course, you're only going to attend one college.
That's correct.
So when you give your $19 or $20 million figure, is that all
That's
of
the
them?
amount that each child was awarded.
Right, so it's not what they actually accepted because they
Correct.
can only go to one school.
Correct. But this is how much they actually earned in scholarship. Then they can choose which ones they take depending on which school they go to. Yep, absolutely.
Just to follow up on that, is the scholarship awards night, did you do that in person last year?
They did, and they only invited they had some that were virtual and some in person. They kind of did a hybrid model.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they did.
If there was ever a way to record that and get it out to the community.
Well, that's a good idea.
It is just, especially St. Michael's.
Yeah.
That one's so exciting. and it
That's a
seems
very
like
good
every
idea.
student's there.
I'll take that back because we have the capability of doing that. So that's a good idea. Thank you for that
And there's
idea.
a lot of the scholarships that people don't really, everybody looks at me because I play golf all the time. Well, those tournaments are fundraisers for those scholarships.
Absolutely.
Get that out. There's a lot of local community dollars coming back.
A lot of local dollars, absolutely. So that's a very good idea. We'll definitely do that. And then on this page, they also have the number of students getting those CTE programs. And it also has that we had 39 AP scholars, 19 AP scholars with honors, and we had 13 AP scholars with distinction, which is quite a few kids. That means you actually get a score of 3.5 or higher on 5 or more courses, which is really hard to do. So we're really proud of the kids. And the next page is the college acceptances. And I think this is important to put out to the community because I think the community needs to see that our kids are really diverse in where they want to go. And they are all over the country and out of the country. As a matter of fact, I'm trying to remember what the name of, Verto Education is through the University of Maryland, and actually Mr. Redmond's son is over in London working on his freshman year of college, but it's through the University of Maryland and it's abroad. So some of our students are taking advantage even going abroad. And those are the acceptances. And then Susan, do you want to talk about our community partners since you're one of them?
I don't think we could really function in a small community that we have without community partners because they do so much for us. Midshore Community Foundation, of course, is one of our primary partners, and I think Kelly had mentioned we've made contributions of over $500,000 have been made. They provide scholarships, programs for the teachers can make application for different programs that they want to put in, like a science project, something for the classroom, and these are awarded over the years in order to do that. EASTON Utilities, of course, has been huge in interacting with us, and I don't think could have done the online programs without them stepping up. I would go out delivering meals, and I'd find a kid who didn't have access, so I'd let Kelly know, and my God, the next week when we went back, they were all set up and going. It was a tremendous partnership that really is continuing to this day, and we have, I think, extra funding to continue that. And then we have different community members like Higginbottom Orthodontics. The ACE Mentor Program is very interesting in that it helps students learn about architecture and building. And it's huge in this area, as you all know, and so that program is really growing so that we can, again, keep people here to grow our community as well. And the Historical Society welcomes kids in to do mentorship programs. And then the Museum of Art. So I hope you take a time to look at those pages, and we can go and thank them for participating with us.
And then the Rotary Club, Tillman Area Youth, St. Paul's Episcopal, and Tidewater Physical Therapy. So those were the ones that we do a different business. Each school gets to select a business each year. So it's just a way for us to give back, because guess what they get? They get a big basket of homemade goodies from culinary. So that's probably the best prize I can think of to get, but that's what we do to involve our students, which I think is very important. And then when you go to the next page, it's about our budget. Again, most of our budget goes to people because we are a people business, so it really does go to salaries and fixed charges. I think it's really important for people to note that. And I also think it's important that people know that we're no longer last in per pupil. We're moving up. We're number 20 out of 24. So we really appreciate the county council helping us get there.
And I always have to say this, we're always top 3 in local funding, because I'm looking at the next slide over.
Yes.
And we're funding 65% of your budget.
That's
so
correct.
It's top 3 in the state, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
That is correct. So that's why I say thank you very much for what you do give. And the last page is just to let you know, we really are proud of Lauren Greer, our Teacher of the Year, and Ayana Heyman, our Support Staff of the Year, and our budget timeline is there on the side. Just so that you know, we had all the principals come to last board meeting, present all of their requests, all the supervisors presented their requests. We're putting it all together. We'll be getting a first draft of our budget out in December. We'll have 3 months where we'll have a public hearing, get information from the community. We do have a budget survey out there to our community for parents, students, teachers, and community members. We've had about 700 people fill out the survey so far. And it's important to get everyone's input when we do the budget. The other thing, there were a couple more things to share with you. One is the implementation coordinator. We'll have to get that in next year's budget. I know that we have it in a grant for this year, but you're going to work on that for next year. I have a job description to share with you that we just got from MSDE, so I'll send that to you, Clay. And, you know, this is our annual report, but we would love to do a State of the District with you, maybe in January, if that's something that you would like to do with us together. We think it would be really good for our community to see the different agencies together report on what we do for the community. I think it's important for people to know where their tax dollars go and what's their return on investment, if you will. I see this annual report sharing with our community what their return on investment is. And it's just a glimpse, but I think it's important to do and be that transparent. So thank you very much for having us here.
I'm going to put another plug in for the State of the County report that we'd like to do together. It's amazing how many people don't know that the county works on the roads. The county is the one that is funding the sheriff's office. The county is out there doing many things that our citizens don't know that you all are doing. And so we thought that that would be really good, even though we do take a big chunk of the budget, that the other areas also need recognition for the excellent job that they're doing here.
And next week's American Education Week. So thank a teacher, thank a bus driver, thank a custodian. And I just think it's important to really celebrate public education. It's been a rough couple years, but our staff is amazing, and we really appreciate everything they're doing to educate our children in our community. So thank you.
The 370 certified teachers, is that number up, down, or even?
It's pretty much about the same. We've had some extra this year because of grants that we received. So we have had, like, we've gotten more social workers with that AWARE grant.
Yeah.
So you might see a little bit more just because of that. Because some of those people are certified, so they're under the certified. But as far as teachers go, we've added a couple in English language learner and special education over the past couple of years, but not really classroom.
Okay.
Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for the updated snapshot. At this, I would certainly look forward to a State of the District in January. So let's talk further about that. And as a parent of two public school students at Easton High School and Easton Middle, I get a little look at the end of the day each day into what you are doing to impact lives in this community, and appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And I agree, also with two children in the system who just went back to school. Thankfully, today was my youngest son's day back from quarantine. We had all of us home there for a while. I missed a council meeting because of it. But seeing I got a call from the principal at the elementary school where my youngest son goes to school and said, stop by, we've got some schoolwork for him to work on while he's away. And I expected to get, like 3 or 4, I don't want to say ditto copies, little worksheets or something to work on. It was a book bag. And they had put together everything for him, his books, his tablet, they had worksheets from all the classes, everything was dated. And I put him back in the conference room the first day that we were on quarantine, and I said, here's your schoolwork, let me know when you need help. 4 hours later, I went back and checked on him, and he was still working on it.
Good.
And I have to think, for a fourth grader, a lot of that self-driven learning came from last year, and when everything's new, everything's open and you're welcome to learn. And yes, we've been through some weird times recently, but I'm staying positive and optimistic to watching the outcome, just watching how my children are developing. And now with one in middle school, seeing the junior honor society that's in the middle school and the programs that are available. I have a lot of buy-in to our public schools, and I take offense when I see people take pop shots at us for certain small things that can happen anywhere. But seeing the work that you do and seeing it in my children as they're progressing, I want to thank you and let you know that you are doing a good job. In all the struggles and shots that everyone takes, I am impressed, and I am there with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your support. Really appreciate it. Thank you. And we'll be in touch, Clay. I did bring extra if you want to bring too many. I thought it would be good for it to have. All right, thank you. And thank you, Jessica and Susan. You're always so helpful. You make me look good, girl.
Okay, thank you. And next we have Zach Smith presenting the findings of the Board of Education Redistricting Commission. Welcome, Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith.
Good evening, Council. Thank you. Zach Smith on behalf of this Redistricting Commission. as we were asked to do, we met on several occasions and looked at the existing Board of Education district boundaries and the most recent census data for the purposes of determining if there are any recommended changes to those boundaries that we as a commission may make to the council. And, certainly much less of a burden than drawing these district boundaries from anew. I mean, we were just looking at the existing and trying to determine if any changes were needed. When the staff presented us with the information, they really made our job very simple, provided all the information that we needed. And when we looked at that data, I think the determination was we felt that the current boundaries met all the statutory requirements, even in light of the changes to the census data. But that said, there was a consensus of the commission that we wanted to look and see if we could find any changes that might increase the minority population within the one district that satisfies the majority-minority requirement. And so we identified several possibilities and asked Mark to show us what those may look like on the maps, and he did that. Many of those changes didn't accomplish the change in the numbers that we were trying to accomplish, but I think at least one did. And so that is the one substantive change that was proposed relative to the existing boundaries. There were a few minor refinements, I think I would call them, to the boundaries to make the district boundaries align with the census tract boundaries, which just seemed like a good housekeeping, something we should do to make sure the numbers are legitimate. And then the only other thing I think we were focused on is ensuring that no current board member was displaced from their applicable district. And Mark confirmed that that wasn't the case. So what we've put in front of you is a relatively minor change to the existing district boundaries. And I think Mark could explain that one change, identify it, if the council wants to see it.
Yes, please.
All right, so my job was relatively easy this time, not so much in the past, 10 years ago. But this time, really...
Welcome, Mr. Cahoon. Just for the sake of the public, we know that you're a valued staff member, but would you like to introduce yourself to the
thank
public?
you. So I'm Mark Cahoon. I work for the Department of Public Works. I'm the GIS manager, been there for a while.
And thank you for your work in supporting this effort.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad to help. So let's see, what are we looking at? We are looking at, this is the baseline. So basically, this is the previous minority district boundary. The change you will see, I don't know if you can see where the mouse is, but it's just this little neighborhood right here. So we added a little bit of minority population there, changed the boundary, and really that was the change. Everything else has remained the same. We had some minor housekeeping because the census blocks didn't remain the same. The U.S. Census changed some of the boundaries of the census block, and just to match those, we made some minor adjustments. They were relatively minor. Let's see, so here...
Mark, sorry to interrupt, but if you click out of that, you can go into the next series of maps. Each map is saved individually.
Oh, I see. So at the bottom of this one, we have, we use the U.S. Census 2020 data, the adjusted version of the census data. The adjusted version relates to prison population, not counting the population in prison, but counting the population as it would be if they were at their residence. So the state of Maryland has that requirement. We also use the 18 plus population, which is a voter age, and that's also a requirement for redistricting. Here are our numbers. Pretty much we have even numbers across the board. The minority district is a little bit lower, but it meets our requirement. What did I do?
You're fine, so then you can just click. The maps are numbered. One would be under the school in the middle there, but that would be 1, 2, 3, and then go up to 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay, so we were just looking at, so this is district, I see, so let me back out of that. So District 1. So this is our revised minority district. We added this neighborhood, and pretty much everything else remains the same. District 2. We had a couple of just minor things around the edges, but didn't impact any homes or any population numbers, just some cleanup on the district boundaries themselves.
So obviously District 1, it has to be the majority minority. Is that why it's so strangely shaped? Like, I mean, because the District 6 cuts like way back down into it. If that was included, it would throw off that number because it's just, it's odd. And I'm sure it's been that way, you know, since 10 years ago or more.
Correct.
But it is, if that section were included to the right of the pink, that would throw off all those numbers.
Yeah, so determining the majority district is the challenge. Out of this whole process, finding those numbers are the challenge. And you know, you just do your best.
And we did look at sort of squaring it off and making it more regularly shaped, but in all those instances, it would increase the population, and not just the minority population, but the other population. So it would decrease the minority population in that district. Yep.
Yeah, I can go through the maps. You know, District 3, District 4 is, they're all the same as they have been in the past.
Mark, is the area that was added to District 1, that came out of District 6, is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, so the population that was, and the numbers for that just a little bit area was probably like 36.
Small.
Yeah, it's a very small number, so it's a very, very minor change. And just show you the last one. Number 7. Of course, District 7 is, you know, Bosman, Tillman.
So again, we didn't propose any radical changes, just sort of less is more, and we thought no reason to change anything. We did look to try to adjust the one numbers, but other than that, we were satisfied. So our recommendation, the commission's recommendation to the council would be to adopt the maps we provided.
Thank you very much for your work, and I know that you had a shortened time frame to do all this in because the federal government did not get you the data that you needed to work with until much later than they originally intended to. But your deadline did not move, which just meant that your work was compressed. So thank you for turning this around in that compressed time frame.
Of course, and the thanks should really go, again, to your staff, because they made it, it's simple for us. Thank you.
I think the action for us then is to meet our deadlines for this redistricting process is to direct staff to draw up legislation to implement these changed maps.
Yes, correct.
And I would need a motion to do so.
So moved?
I'll second.
We have a motion and second. Madam Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Lusher?
Aye.
Mr. DeVillio?
Aye.
Ms. Price?
Aye.
Mr. Pack?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you once again.
Well, thanks, sir.
Next is introduction of numbered resolutions. Madam Secretary, if you would read the first one into the record.
A resolution to amend Resolution Number 281, a resolution to amend the Talbot County Comprehensive Water and Sewer Plan, the plan to reclassify and remap portions of certain real property located in the town of Trapppe, Maryland, associated with the Lakeside Planned Unit Development, the Lakeside Project, formerly known as TRAPPE East, further described as Tax Map 54, Parcel 304. Tax Map 55, Parcels 14, 15, 17, 19, 44, 65, 83, and 85, and Tax Map 59, Parcel 4. The total area consisting of 865 acres, more or less, the property, from S2 and W2, areas where improvements or extensions to existing or construction of new community multi-use or shared sanitary facilities are programmed for for progress within 3 to 5 years to S1 and W1, areas served or to be served by community, multi-use, or shared sanitary facilities which are existing, under construction, or have immediate priority status. To amend the plan to add certain water and sewer capital projects related to the Lakeside project and existing systems for the fiscal years 2020 through 2030, and to amend the plan to update the narrative description in the plan relative to the Lakeside project and existing systems, as amended, in certain respects regarding the connection of Phase 1, Section 1 of the Lakeside project to the existing TRAPPE wastewater system.
Thank you. And Mr. Thomas, are you the one who would explain this mouthful to us?
Before he does,
Okay.
I think it would be helpful, if you don't mind, Madam Secretary, to read the resolution, or the majority of the resolution, into the record. It was requested for it to be made public, and it didn't get on the website until about an hour ago. So for those who haven't seen it yet, and what I would ask, if you don't mind, is to read the whereas clauses, and then that one paragraph that contains the changes. Are you with me?
Yep. Whereas on August 11th, 2020, the County Council adopted Resolution Number 281 as amended for the purposes of amending the Talbot County Comprehensive Water and Sewer Plan, the CWSP inter alia, to add certain water and sewer capital projects related to the Lakeside Plan Unit Development, the Lakeside Project, and existing systems in the town of Trappe. And whereas on or about November 4th, 2020, the Maryland Department of the Environment approved the amendments to the Comprehensive Water Sewer Plan as set forth in Resolution Number 281. And whereas Resolution Number 281 provides for connection of approximately 84 new dwelling units and a visitor and sales center in the startup phase, Phase 1, Section 1 of the Lakeside project, to a new wastewater treatment plant at the Lakeside project site or the existing TRAPPE wastewater treatment system, with connection to the existing system subject to certain conditions. And whereas subsequent to the County Council's adoption of Resolution Number 281 and its approval by MDE, various concerns, including environmental concerns, arose regarding the planned connection of Phase 1, Section 1 of the Lakeside project to the existing TRAPPE wastewater treatment system, which is nearly 20 years old and in need of upgrades as set forth in the Comprehensive Water Sewer Plan. And whereas the County Council is desirous of amending Resolution Number 281 for the purpose of imposing additional conditions on the connection of Phase 1, Section 1 of the Lakeside project to the existing TRAPPE wastewater treatment system, that the County Council believes are necessary and appropriate to address the foregoing concerns. And then on page 4, beginning at the first full paragraph, an enhanced nutrient removal ENR 0.54 MGD membrane bioreactor MBR wastewater treatment plant and collection system will be designed, constructed in phases, and operated to serve the proposed Lakeside development within the Trappe East Sewer District. The proposed MBR ENR wastewater treatment plant will be designed such that it can be constructed in phases. This type of design will eliminate operating challenges associated with the low flows generated by early phases of development and the inability of a wastewater treatment plant constructed to full build-out capacity to operate properly at initial low flows. Phase 1, Section 1 of the proposed Lakeside project is expected to include approximately 84 single-family residential dwellings and a visitor and sales center. Sanitary sewer capacity for the proposed startup phase will require treatment and disposal of approximately 30 to 40,000 gallons per day. The initial treatment and disposal capacity estimate includes consideration of flow equalization and peak flow capacity. Startup wastewater treatment for the Lakeside project may be provided by a modular ENR MBR wastewater treatment plant capable of operating at the initial development flow rates or by a direct connection to the existing TRAPPE wastewater system, provided that
So I'm going to stop. This language that she's about to read is the proposed amendment, okay? Everything else was already in there. Keep going.
provided that the existing wastewater treatment plant is in compliance with its MDE permit and all other conditions imposed by MDE, and further provided that no portion of the startup phase may be connected to the existing system for more than 18 months after final approval of County Resolution Number 310 by MDE. Connection to the existing Town of Trappe wastewater system is also subject to the approval of the Town of Trappe, while available wastewater treatment plant capacity and adequate access to the existing system. Within 18 months of issuance of all required permits and approvals for the new Lakeside wastewater treatment plant, all wastewater from the startup phase being treated by the existing Trappe wastewater system shall be redirected to the new Lakeside wastewater treatment plant. Following the initial section of development, the full capacity Lakeside wastewater treatment plant will be constructed in phases of approximately 100,000 gallons per day of wastewater. The wastewater treatment plant will be expanded in phases as the capacity of the then existing Lakeside wastewater treatment plant approaches 80% of capacity. Is that all you want?
Yep, no. I think that does it. Thank you very much. I don't know whether you want me to start or Patrick want to start.
You can start.
Okay. So I initially had this prepared as an amendment to the Comprehensive Water and Sewer Plan, which we've been saying for many months is the appropriate vehicle. So probably people are like, why are you proposing a resolution to amend 281? So I'm going to clear that up from the get-go. I wanted to get the language out. We can only introduce amendments to the Comprehensive Water and Sewer Plan 4 times a year. I believe it's December, March, June, and September. So I was stuck. So I had it prepared, and then at the last minute, like at 5 o'clock last week, they're like, no, you can't do that. So I said, go ahead and put the language into a resolution, and Patrick worked really hard on this, put together the whereas clauses, which I think explain it very clearly. We had the, many of people who are listening, I hope, attended the public hearing that MDE had last Thursday night. I met personally with 2 members, higher-up members from MDE a few days prior to that. They're very well aware of not only issuing the permit and looking at the problems, the good things and the bad things with the what the developer is proposing, but also connecting, up 120 or so homes, and there's a lot of things that aren't in writing. So I wanted to get this out there publicly that my intent is to introduce this as an amendment to the Comp Water and Sewer Plan. I wanted to go through just a couple things, some reasonings why people are like, well, why is this fair to everybody? And I'm going to read through those, and then I'll kick it off to Patrick to explain what I'm spitting out of my mouth here. All right, so this amendment is consistent with the original Resolution 281, which states clearly that connection to the Trappe wastewater treatment plant is solely for the purpose of startup wastewater treatment for the Lakeside project. The amendment is consistent with the representations of the developer because the developer has stated that it will commence construction of the Lakeside wastewater treatment plant immediately upon issuance of an MDE permit, and the construction should take 12 to 18 months. They've said that publicly. They've certainly said it to me in private conversations on the telephone. The developer has stated its intention, including in the amended DRRA, which stands for Development Rights and Responsibilities. What's the A?
Rights and Responsibilities Agreement.
Agreement, thank you. With the Town of Trappe, that as soon as the Lakeside plant is operational, all wastewater from dwelling units initially connected to the Trappe plant shall be directed to the new Lakeside wastewater treatment plant. That is directly from the amended DRRA section 9.5. The amendment is fair to the developer and the Town of Trappe because it does not delay the Lakeside project, given that the developer may connect units to the Trappe wastewater treatment plant immediately and for a period of 18 months. And I put 18 months in there because they said it would take 12 to 18 months to construct it. So they have plenty of time. An alternative amendment that would bar connection to the TRAPPE wastewater treatment plant until it's upgraded to ENR standards would delay the project for at least 18 months and likely more while the TRAPPE plant is upgraded. So I'm really looking for a compromise here that allows a small number of homes. How many can possibly get built in 12 to 18 months? 5, 10, 20 homes? That's certainly better than 120 on that substandard wastewater treatment plant in TRAPPE that exists right now. The amendment reasonably limits the negative environmental impact of additional wastewater flowing through the existing substandard TRAPPE plant by allowing connection of only a likely modest number of dwelling units, which is what I just said, that will be operational within 18 months, prohibiting further connections to the TRAPPE wastewater treatment plant after that, and requiring connected dwelling units to be redirected to the new plant when operational, which is, again, everything the developer has represented to us thus far. This amendment, therefore, is a fair compromise in that it limits potential further environmental damage while not delaying the Lakeside project from moving forward even before the issuance of an MDE permit. And finally, I'd say that it's not possible to forecast the future. We've talked about whether or not the two would be connected together. Maybe you'd have some on-site treatment and then it might get piped over to an upgraded ENR plant. And a state-of-the-art upgraded TRAPPE wastewater treatment plant might provide some additional environmental benefit from connection to that plant at some future date. But any such unforeseen development could be addressed by a subsequent amendment to the Comprehensive Water and Sewer Plan, which always will remain as a possibility when 3 responsible council members with ultimate approval by MDE decide it should be. So that hopefully lays it out. I know that some people don't want any connection whatsoever, and there are people who just want to go ahead and connect and not put any restraints on the development at all. That's not how it works in legislation. As council members, we have to listen to everybody and compromise, and you've heard me say this on some other issues recently. This side's not going to get everything they want. This side's not going to get everything they want. You have to find a compromise. So this allows the development to go forward with just a small, reasonable number of homes being connected over the next year and a half, and asks the developer to go ahead and put in writing, basically, or we're putting it in writing for them, that they will do what they've represented that they will do. I'm done.
Mr. Thomas, anything to add?
I don't know if I can add too much to that, but I will just again state that my opinion has always been that the appropriate way to address any concerns that the council has with this project is through a comprehensive water and sewer plan amendment instead of rescinding or through this vehicle. But I think that this lays out some reasonable conditions, and if the council ultimately decides to go down that road, there would be a hearing, and obviously the town and the developer would be notified and have the opportunity to participate. And I would hope that they would come forward before we get to that point and hopefully resolve some of these concerns.
Right. And in my meeting with MDE, they were very clear, very explicit that this tool is ours in our toolbox. It does not rest with the developer. It does not rest with the town of TRAPPE. This is our comprehensive water and sewer plan, and they gave me some suggested ideas for how to put this together so that it's fair. But they also said that when we put forth a comprehensive water and sewer plan amendment, they accept them. I mean, so this is solely in our bailiwick that we, while we absolutely want the town of TRAPPE and the developer to be on board with this, this is what they've represented to us all along, and we're just trying to put it in writing. But this we don't need permission from anybody else. This is our job, right up here.
Okay. So course forward to full council for sponsors.
Well, before you do that, I would just like to go on the record to say once again, I'm looking at the memo dated August 17th, 2021, regarding Resolution 281 that was adopted by the council on August 11th, 2020. The Resolution 281 was adopted by Maryland Department of Environment. They sent a letter back to us on November the 4th that the changes would now be incorporated into our comprehensive water and sewer plan. As Mr. Thomas has again stated, this is not the vehicle by which to do that.
Agreed.
And even the sponsor is agreeing to it. So to me, I really don't, I'm scratching my head to figure out why we're doing or trying to attempt to do something that we can't unring a bell once it's rung.
Well, just remember what I said.
Those changes are adopted into, let me finish.
Yeah, I already explained it.
I know, I'm just saying my point for the record. You had
Yep, you
5
did.
minutes. This is not the vehicle by which to do that. It's been said over and over and over again. Our county attorney has cited the reasons why this is not the vehicle by which to do this. And I will also state that you cannot mandate to a municipality which has its own jurisdiction, in this case being the town of TRAPPE, as to what time limit they will include homes onto their wastewater treatment system. We wouldn't expect TRAPPE to do that to us, and vice versa. We cannot mandate it upon them. So even the changes that are incorporated in this amendment, even if we had the mind to do it, we can't do it.
Yes, we can.
Well,
Yes, we
that's
can.
the point of difference.
Well, it's a legal
And
opinion.
I'm just saying my opinion for the record, Mrs. Price. I'm not
Yeah.
debating you. So I'll leave that as my statement.
No comment this time.
So the appropriate action is to ask to poll the council by show of hands who wishes to sponsor this.
So let me repeat what I said at the beginning, because I agree, I've said it the whole time. An amendment to 281 doesn't do a thing. And because of timing, because I could not introduce an amendment to the Comprehensive Water and Sewer Plan, which is the appropriate vehicle, I agree with you, Mr. Pack. But I thought with all of the publicity that's been going on, I thought it was really important to get the language out there. This will be redrafted, very similar, and my intent is to introduce it, I guess it's December 14th, as an amendment to the Comprehensive Water and Sewer Plan. So unless somebody else wants to introduce it, that was my whole reason for doing this. Again, it was originally drafted as a Comp 1 and Sewer Plan amendment. Last minute had to change it, wanted to keep it on the agenda.
So you're choosing not to introduce it?
Correct. Do you have any thoughts on all this, though?
I appreciate your putting the language out there for the public. If this will then turn around into use this language further down in December when this can be reopened as an amendment to the Comprehensive Water and Sewer Plan. Thank you. So if we don't have sponsors for this, that takes us on to the next agenda item. Which is, and for the next resolution, Madam Secretary, would you read the title into the record, please?
A resolution authorizing the transfer of any interest Talbot County, Maryland holds in Flood Avenue to the town of Easton and the execution of a quitclaim deed to effectuate the same.
And I will turn this over to Mr. Thomas to explain what's going on behind this.
Yes, so we've received a written request from the town of Easton to, on September 22nd, requesting that the county convey any interest it holds in Flood Avenue. And the town would assume maintenance thereof at its sole cost and expense. Under state law, local government article, section 10.312, the county can provide for the disposal of any real property that's no longer needed for public use. However, we have to first publish notice in the paper and state the terms and compensation, provide an opportunity for objections, and then take it legislative action in the form of this resolution. So that's what this is for.
And Mr. Thomas, are we clear that the county, or are we clear who actually has title to that roadway?
So what we would be doing is giving a quitclaim deed, which essentially says we're giving you whatever interest we may have in the property. So we're not doing a title search or, clearly state no title examination, so.
What is the length of roadway that the quitclaim deed would cover? The flood isn't that long. Do you have the dimensions of that, the linear mileage?
Exhibit, page 5 is blank, it doesn't show the map.
Yeah, well, I have a map, but I don't have the actual linear feet that is being conveyed.
I have there's a attachment with the topographic and boundary survey, but it's difficult to read on my screen here.
So we don't know what portion of flood is actual county interest and what portion of flood may be already in the town, or are we clear on that? I don't think any part of flood is privately owned. I don't think it is. Ray, would you know? I do not. I don't know either.
It's difficult to tell with this map because when I blow it up, the text starts to get fuzzy.
Could we just get some more clarification on that roadway so we know exactly what we're conveying and what is ours and what is not? I don't think that the county has any true interest on retaining flood, but I still would like to clear up some of the ambiguity in the roadway itself.
Gosh, we just had Mark Cahoon in here. Maybe he could take a look at it.
Well, we can throw it back to him again.
We can proceed with the introduction of this.
You can introduce, yeah, I just want to give.
And have that as a question that is addressed at the time of the public hearing.
Sure.
Any other questions or discussion on this matter?
Oh, I wasn't raising my hand. I want to give it away, but I don't know what I'm giving away. But
From what I can tell, it looks like it's broken into two sections,
Yeah.
429 feet and 926 feet.
what are you looking at down there?
Google, what bad?
No, the
You
Talbot
blew
County
the
land
map
use, land use map.
Oh, land use map. Okay, well, look, I don't think my question would hold us back from introducing tonight. Mr. Thomas can give me the information, at a later date.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. With that, by show of hands, who wishes to sponsor this resolution? By Mr. DeVilio, Mr. Pack, Mrs. Price, and Mr. Lesher, and myself. Thank you.
Is there
And Madam Secretary, would you assign it a resolution number and a hearing date?
Yes, this will be known as Resolution Number 310, and the public hearing will be held on Tuesday, December 14th at 6:30 p.m.
Thank you very much. And with that, we move on to the next resolution. If, Madam Secretary, if you would read that into the record, title.
A resolution to amend the Talbot County Council Rules of Procedure to clarify certain procedures regarding the adoption of numbered and administrative resolutions, the filing of petitions, the drafting of legislation, and the conduct of public hearings, and to correct outdated and inconsistent language.
And Mr. Patrick, Mr. Thomas, you will introduce, explain this to us?
Yes, so this came about as at the request of Councilmember Pack to address some language regarding resolutions and hearings on resolutions. And in working with staff, we made those changes. In fact, some of these were actually worked on by the previous county attorney, but for one reason or another never got a chance to come up for introduction in a hearing. So this is something that's been in the works for some time, and we've also, in working with staff, have made some proposed changes regarding the petition process to try to bring some clarity that I felt had been lacking, especially since we've had these petitions filed for the two ones that anybody seems to recall being filed in many, many years. So just trying to bring some clarity and structure to that process and to clean up some outdated and inconsistent language that will hopefully make some things a little bit easier to follow and understand.
May I, Mr. Le-
Please.
And thank you, Patrick. Yeah, and Mr. Cooper Smith, prior to his leaving, he and I had a conversation about this, about some of the issues that I had with the rules of procedure as far as numbered resolutions and the likes. And unfortunately, we could not get his timing as he was leaving us to actually get something in writing to introduce to council. So I did ask Mr. Thomas to pick it back up again and go through it. And so what you see here is just some housekeeping, if you would, to kind of smoothing some of the rough spaces out in the rules of procedure, but also to help give this council and future council some direction as to how we're going to handle petitions going forward. And we did have some petitions that were filed this year as far as how council should handle those. So I think that this would help give us some more clarity, and not just us, but also the public's coming before us to know how those procedures should be handled. So again, I certainly appreciate Patrick jumping on this and getting the information to us for introduction.
Anybody else? If not, by show of hands, who will be sponsoring this resolution? By Mr. DeVilio, Mr. Pack, Mr. Price, and myself. And Madam Secretary, would you assign this a number and a hearing date?
This will be known as Resolution Number 311, and the public hearing will be held on Tuesday, December 14th at 6:30 p.m.
Thank you very much.
So how many public hearings is that now for December 14th? That 3, including the continuation?
3 or 4.
Is that too many? Because there are kind of some that people were likely to show up for.
Well, we have the public hearing already.
The continuation
Yeah.
for TRAPPE.
Well, that hasn't been advertised, but yeah.
Which one hasn't?
The Resolution 308, we hadn't advertised that yet.
Okay.
And the public hearing on the short-term rental review board change in composition of the board, that's on the 14th as well.
It was a time, that was big.
Thank you. We now move on to public hearing on Resolution 309. Madam Secretary, if you would read this into the record, the title.
Resolution number 309, a resolution to amend the Talbot County Comprehensive Water and Sewer Plan to reclassify and remap certain real property located at 24108 Mount Pleasant Road, St. Michaels, Maryland, 21663, and shown on tax map 32 as parcel 85 from unprogrammed to S1, immediate priority status.
Okay. Mr. Clark's going to come forward to explain this one for us. Mr. Clark?
Yes. Council, we've received an application from, I guess, Mr. Mr. McClammy, requesting that his property be incorporated into the Region 2 wastewater system. We are currently in the process of designing the force main that would go out to I guess, Mount Pleasant, as well as picking up the properties in Nevitt, as well as Bosman. Ultimately, this, this basically is a property that consists of about 1.25 acres. It originally had an outhouse with a shallow well, so there's no septic system that was actually installed here. And at the same time, before the Public Works Advisory Board, they basically reviewed this Resolution 309 and put forth a motion and approved that motion via a 4-0 vote to recommending the County Council adopt Resolution 309. The Planning Commission at their meeting, and I believe it was November 3rd, they also introduced a resolution finding that introduced a motion finding Resolution 309 was consistent with the comp plan, and they too voted 4-0 adopting that motion.
And this property is a developed property, so it meets the criteria for connection.
We right now at this point in time, I guess it is developed, but there's nobody in the house at this point.
But the criteria is that it be developed, not that it be occupied.
I don't know if we really have, we have resolution, I think it's 125 that's associated with the Unionville Tunis Mills or the Unionville Force Main. We don't really have a policy that sets forth a priority for, I guess, allowing people to come into the sewer line. At the same time, this is a property that we don't even have sewer there yet. This is one of the properties that I guess it was originally, I guess, classified as a Tier 4 property, but it's kind of unique in the sense that it doesn't really meet the Tier 4 kind of definition in the sense that it's only 1.25 acres. The property owner, when I talked to him, basically, he was very interested in being part of the Resolution 250 design and water sewer, sewer extension for 250. Okay.
Any other questions from council? If not, this is a public hearing. If there's anybody who would like to speak to this, if you could raise your hand and come forward to the microphone to introduce yourself. Public comment on resolution number 309. Don't all come at once. Seeing none, we can close the public hearing on resolution number 309. This could be, if council is of a mind to do it, advance to a second reader. This was a second reader already.
Yes, sir.
So this could be eligible for vote if council is of a mind to do so at this time.
So just, I have a question.
Yes.
On the map, Exhibit A, so the top is, the white area is Tier 4. Is that correct?
I believe the whole, there were, I think, 4 or 5 properties that were listed as Tier 4. They're right there.
Okay, so I'm just trying to clarify why only one, because it looks like there's 1, 2, you said 4 or 5. Why would the, what is special about that one property as opposed to the other 1, 2, 3, or 4 parcels next to
The
it?
property owner made a request. We have not talked to the other property owners at this time. So it was, the property owner is the one who made the request to amend the comp water sewer plan. We have not, we're still in the process of designing, so one of the things we'll probably be doing is hopefully coming back to the county council and trying to pick up the other properties there. But we've been waiting to work with Century on that, so.
So on that picture again, oops, sorry. But they're making the request that we reclassify it, but there is no sewer there yet, like, right? So, but if you were going to do it, you would think, right, that you would pick up all 5?
That's our objective, yes, is, to your point, we'll be extending sewer over to that property. Why not try and bring up the other 4? I think we'll do that as we get closer to the design getting wrapped up. We'll then make a request as the council, or I'm sorry, the county, to the county council to amend
It
the.
just seems like if we're going to reclassify that one, we should go ahead and reclassify all 5, and when the sewer gets there, and then it's done.
Right.
Rather than doing it in piece by piece by piece.
And I tried to explain that to the property owner, and he would like to move forward with this now. We're probably going to have additional properties that we'd like to present to the county council for consideration to be incorporated into the sewer service area that would amend Resolution 250.
So I don't understand what the rush is. There's no sewer line. So what difference does it make to the property owner if we wanted to just amend this and add the other 4? Does it really slow things down? Because there's no sewer there, service there yet. We're just reclassifying it.
Again, the property owner made the request, so that's why we were moving forward.
We don't have a Public Works Advisory Board or
For the other properties.
recommendation for the others.
Yes.
So if a council member,
We'd end up sending it back to those bodies.
but it's still probably not going to slow the whole process down as far as getting the sewer line there.
It won't. I think to be fair to the other property owners, we have not even consulted them, the other 4 properties that are there. I mean, we can do that and then try to bring them in as well.
It seems like that makes sense.
Right.
To go ahead and ask them, and when this was introduced, I don't know, what was it introduced 4 weeks ago?
Mm-hmm.
We probably should have done so and maybe put in an amendment so we don't have to do this multiple times.
Right.
I'm a little concerned about the revelation that we had just a little bit earlier in Mr. Clark's response that, while we do have clear criteria for connection on the Unionville extension, that those criteria, we don't have a parallel set of criteria for Church Neck Road, or I thought this was covered for the Bosman-Nevitt corridor. And this is the same system, but a different section or a different sub-district of Region 2.
This is actually part of Resolution 250. So to your point, I think we do not have any sewer there today. So this would be amending Resolution 250 to incorporate this lot at this point in time. So this would now be incorporated into the sewer service area that's now we're working to get sewer out to Bosman and Nevitt. Mrs. Price is correct. I mean, we can come back and request, the other 4 properties come in. I mean, it's a worthwhile venture to do.
I would have, again, in
Right.
hindsight, I would have liked that suggestion.
Mhm.
And, sometimes when we're introducing, we don't think of everything. To me, that makes sense to do them all, and there's no sewer line there, so I would say, let's propose an amendment to do all of them and send it, if we have to send it back to the Planning Commission and Public Works and next month, and then vote on it all at once, but whatever council's pleasure is.
Right, right.
Well, shall we hold off on a vote on this with those concerns on the table?
I'm prepared to move forward. I think the property owner has made the request of the county to adjoin the sewer line. The county attorney did advise him that, the other properties adjacent to him would also be considered at a later date. It is still his wishes to move forward. He understands it's his obligations to pay for the connection. He may be putting himself at a disadvantage because if there's grant money for the connections down the road, he's already obligated to pay. So, he's of the mind to move forward for connection. Both the Planning Commission and the Public Advisory Board have both agreed that connection should go forward. I see no reason to hold him up if he wants to go forward with their recommendations. The other 3 or 4 properties we can pick up at a later date when that time comes about.
I believe the adjacent property has a structure, but nothing else. The other ones appear to be vacant.
Could be. That's probably why you're not hearing from that owner.
And I believe that the one right next door to it was only built maybe 16 years ago, so they probably have a new system that's operating.
They probably have a system already.
How big is the properties again?
This one was 1.25. I believe the others are about the same size.
I'd certainly love, if this is the one that has a clear need and a clear interest from the property owner, and the others may or may not meet the criteria that would be appropriate, I'd love to see us act on this in isolation and perhaps circle back on clarifying the criteria under which we would make such a change in the future.
I would be comfortable with that.
That's fine.
So resolution 309 has been read a second time. It is eligible for vote, so there's nothing further.
With that, on resolution 309, Madam Secretary, would you call the roll?
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Mr. DeVillio?
Aye.
Ms. Price?
Aye.
Mr. Pack?
Aye.
Okay, the resolution passes. Thank you all very much. We move on to Bill 1494. Madam Secretary, if you would read the title.
Bill number 1494, bill to authorize a capital project for the acquisition of certain equipment and an office trailer for the repurposing center located at 28128 St. Michael's Road, Easton, Maryland.
Okay. Mr. Thomas, would you remind us of our purpose in this one?
So this is a bill that would authorize a capital project for acquisition for equipment to recycle materials, necessary safety equipment, and an office trailer for the repurposing center. But then, of course, the actual expenditures would come back at a later date.
This does not make the appropriation.
Correct.
All right. Any questions on Bill 1494? This is eligible for a vote? Are we moving forward then? Madam Secretary, would you call the roll?
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Mr. DeVillio?
Aye.
Ms. Price?
Aye.
Mr. Pack?
Aye.
Okay, Bill 1494 passes. Thank you very much. And we move on to a discussion of the Preserve at Y Mills. Mr. Clark, are you on for this one again?
Yes, sir, I am.
You get all the fun ones.
I get the fun ones. We also have Mr. Phil Jackson, who's also the president of the Homeowners Association, here with us tonight.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you.
So would you like to fill us in on the nature of the request and
Ye-
the direction that we have from MDE?
Yes, sir. First off, I want to thank Mr. Jackson. We've been working with Mr. Jackson related to the issues that they've been having at the wastewater treatment plant at the Preserve Y Mills. Mr. Jackson has also been participating in basically monthly meetings with the Department of Public Works, MDE, RAL Incorporated, the design firm, as well as environmental health. And ultimately, per our last meeting or two, the discussion came up of having the county assume ownership of the Preserve Y Mills wastewater treatment plant for the primary objective for the county to actually be now eligible for grant funding. If basically the Preserve Y Mills were to remain the owner of the facility, they could only receive loans at this point in time. So the key here would be in discussions with MDE was to try to move forward with an application to MDE for funding, both grant as well as a loan package. And our objective now is to submit that hopefully to MDE in December. Actually, applications are due at the end of January, but we're hoping to work with MDE to do any fine tuning on that application. But as part of our application, the county would have to either own the facility, which I don't think we have enough time to do that, or we can request from the council a letter of intent to take over that, and then we can submit that letter of intent to MDE to satisfy the requirements. So.
And that will get us in line for this round of funding.
Yes, sir. And so the council is aware too, the funding would be available July 1st, 2023. We are looking at alternative strategies right now, and we'll need to sit down with the Homeowners Association and Mr. Jackson. The one option right now is possibly moving forward with the improvements, but we would do that via a loan, and then the grant funding would be applied to that project as of July 1st, 2023.
Ray, I have not read the PER. I know that it's been received.
Yes, sir.
Council just got it.
Yes, sir.
Later this evening. But I do know that the members of the Public Works Advisory Board were very concerned that the county not move on ownership of the facility until after the PER had been received and after we had had a chance to digest it and record any updates or any changes. Although this letter of intent does not bind the county into taking over ownership, but if it satisfies, to your point, the grant requirement from MDE, we're doing so with this letter with the hopeful intent, if I can use the word a second time in the sentence, to take it over, but provided that we get the PER and we have a chance to review that and make any changes.
And so the council is aware. I mean, Terry Martin and I have reviewed the PER. We've met with RAL Incorporated. Ultimately, it has all the things that we've requested to be put in the PER. They did an analysis. The PER has found that an MBR treatment system is the most feasible option for this.
What kind?
What's that? MBR, which is a now I'm going to mess up, a membrane bioreactor, I apologize. So it's an MBR system, and we would basically have that constructed or designed as part of the replacement of the existing system.
Have you submitted to council an analysis of the PNR?
I have not. I did submit something to the county council, like a recommendation of taking over the facility.
Right.
But yeah, we have not given you, I haven't given you a summary sheet of the PER at this point.
Did the analysis that you talked with Bob RAL Incorporated, did you guys talk about the capacity for that MBR?
Yes. And what we were looking at right now, originally the Preserve Y Mills wastewater treatment plant was designed for 20,100 gallons per day. What we were now discussing is actually putting in 2 10,000-gallon per day treatment units. One of the things we're finding is that the wastewater flows from, I think it's about 53 to 54 houses, is around between 6,000 to 7,000 gallons per day. They have, I believe, another 13 houses. I think it's up to 67 houses to be connected. So that might get them up to, let's say, another let's say up to 7,000 to 8,000 gallons a day wastewater flow. In discussions with MDE last year, I believe it was, and we could actually utilize that second 10,000 gallon per day wastewater system to possibly go and extend sewer out and assist with the overall operations by let's say going up to the preserve Y mills or something of that nature.
Yeah, I think one of the major challenges that we've experienced in this community with this system is that we've not been able to provide it with the capacity and flow necessary for the system to work effectively. So really, we're caught in this difficult place of not having enough homes in the community to get the efficiencies out of the system to drive the total nitrogen results that we're looking for.
Right.
So that's, it's an unfortunate kind of crossroads we're at, and that is a major consideration that's called out in the PER as a reflection on why we haven't been able to get to the compliance that we would ultimately like to get to.
And this is spray fuels, correct?
This is spray, and, I'm sorry.
Would the MBR also be spray?
Yes, we would continue to be spraying. We would continue to spray irrigate. One of the things that we would be looking at is the permit right now, I think, is 10 milligrams per liter for total nitrogen. With the MBR, we would be dropping that down to 3 milligrams per liter for total nitrogen.
How does that compare with an ENR plant?
It's the same.
Same.
It is the same.
What about the I don't have the report in front of me. What about the holding tank for the winter?
It would still remain the same, but right now at the flows, and that's been looked at, we would have enough capacity. We would have enough capacity, basically.
In the existing tank, or will we be putting a new tank?
No, we would, with the existing holding pond that we have, we'd have enough capacity.
Yeah,
Yes.
the PER also looks at the current spray field configuration. We are not currently built out completely in terms of the spray field that's currently in place.
Right.
And so one of the important considerations in terms of, both, in terms of the context of the PER was to look at whether or not we currently had appropriate capacity built out in that spray field for the, effluent that's coming into the spray, into the lagoon and being sprayed. And it does seem we do have appropriate capacity to both meet the needs of the community as it is and to meet the future needs to accommodate the current building permits that are in queue.
And how many lots do you have to be built on that?
I think there's 5 building permit applications right now that are on hold. There are, I believe there's 13 to 14, 13 vacant lots out there today.
So my last question was that, when could you get the summary back to council, you think, Brian?
I'll try my best, maybe try and get to you Friday.
Yeah, I would just add that, we have continued to work over the course of 2 years alongside Ray, and I would be remiss in this, in this setting not to acknowledge how supportive Ray has been in helping us navigate what is a very complex matter, a matter that, I am not equipped to, or I've only become somewhat equipped to manage and deal with. The county, Talbot County, and Ray Clark specifically have been a phenomenal resource to us. In the past several weeks, and working with Rao Engineering as well, we've been able to make changes to the facility to get it right on the razor line of this compliance. And we're, we're pleased with that progress. We don't want this progress to slow. We want to keep moving towards this end goal. The county is the, preferred steward for a facility like this, and we're keen to see this through.
Right. And Mr. Jackson, let me just say, and I've been dealing with you with this for the last 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
I just want to give you your props because, you have been a voice of that community up there, bringing this to our attention some 2+ years ago, and saying that, hey, we have a public health issue here that we need to address. We need the council to stop by, not just the elected body, but also the Board of Health to stop in and take action And so I just want to say to you, the citizens up there should be very proud to have you as their voice. I don't know whether you've been the elected speaker or not. But
by default, it's fine, it's good, it's wonderful, right?
Well, you've been great. I think anytime we needed some information from you, you've been very responsive in getting back with us in a timely manner. So thank you for all that you've done for the citizens up there, as well as for the general health of Talbot County. I really appreciate it.
Well,
Right.
thank you very much.
And I should note that Dr. McGuire has been participating in the meetings as well, so.
Well, I was going to say the same thing, Mr. Jackson. You have become very good at verbalizing. We've learned, we sit up here and we learn these acronyms and we learn about things that we never thought we would as elected officials, and you have really been able to speak about this issue a lot better than I'm doing right now. But we do appreciate it,
Thank
and
you.
it was very, very important, so thank you.
It's my new favorite topic.
All the things you never thought you'd learn about, right?
That's right.
If there's anything in the HOA bylaws about having to come to a county council meeting about your wastewater treatment facility, ending your term
That's right.
starting a term limit, I think it should be in there, if not.
Yeah.
This is one of those times when government has the ability to step in and help with an environmental issue. And it's clear that delays happen even with us, and pollution still continues. So I would like to move forward with this as quickly as possible. I'm also not one to just address the immediate need without thinking about surrounding and larger issues that may come of this. And although you live in a beautiful new neighborhood with lots of new homes in there, and across the street there's plenty that were built in the 90s, there is another street right next to you, basically across the field, with homes built in the 60s and 70s. And we know that septic systems don't last forever. So I think that as we go through this, we do need to make a little bit more of a holistic approach to Y mills, because every time we fix a failing septic system, we're cleaning up the bay. And with Ray monitoring the facility, septic systems are not monitored.
Right.
So I think there is some opportunity here, but reading through all the recommendations, they're not even recommendations. It's almost, Talbot County, you must take it over. If you don't take it over, we're going to force you to take it over. So I appreciate you bringing this to us. Both of you, I have learned more about wastewater treatment facilities from this project alone, and Mr. Pack as well, being in with all the meetings and helping me, guide me through it. I can't think of a better team to make me feel comfortable in my vote. So thank you for the work that you've done, bringing it to us, following through, and I'd be prepared to move on this.
And really, that almost sounded like a motion to move forward with a letter of intent.
And let me say too, just very briefly to Mr. DeVillio's point, I will piggyback on it, just to say that I know the Public Works Advisory Board has not had a chance to look at this yet, Ray, but I think we need to probably be more open-minded in our approach to Y mills. This county has had a history of being sometimes narrow-sighted in our development of wastewater treatment, and then we 10, 15 years down the road said, oh my gosh, we just included another 10,000 gallons, we wouldn't be in this pickle. So I think when we look at that geographical area and do your mapping, we got to look at the 13 lots that are now available, but to Mr. Villio's point, what about across the street? What about the acres up the street? If we included that, if that was added in, what would that get us? And would the 20,000, be sufficient? So, or even if you leave room, because with the MBRs, you can always add another 10,000 gallon in, as long as you have the rooftop to put it under. So you can always do that. So.
Correct.
Okay.
So I will make a motion that we submit a letter of intent.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary, would you call the roll?
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Mr. DeVillio?
Aye.
Ms. Price?
Aye.
Mr. Pack?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Stamp, you're up with the county manager report.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, I'm sorry. First item I have for County Council is under board and committee appointments. We are recommending to the council the appointment of Donald Webster to the Weed Control Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Madam Secretary, would you call the roll?
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Mr. DeVillio,
Aye.
Ms. Price?
Aye.
Mr. Pack?
The next item I'd ask Preston Pecker, your Director of Recreation and Parks, to come forward. His first item, he's going to ask for permission to utilize contingency funds to purchase a new truck. As you read your agenda packet, Parks and Recreation is requesting the purchase of a new truck from Hertrick Fleet Services in the amount of $28,719 utilizing the state contract. If you recall, Council, when we were working through the FY22 budget, we looked at requests from FY22 and moved some capital purchases for vehicles back to FY21 if they could be purchased by June 30th. You authorized 5 vehicles to be purchased. We were able to purchase 4 prior to June 30th, but we were not able to get the other one because of availability. So the money was there. It's been brought forward, and there is suitable contingency available for this request. Preston's here to answer any questions with regard to that.
What color truck will it be?
Probably, I'm guessing white.
This is a replacement vehicle.
Correct. This is so this was a replacement vehicle for one that was discontinued last year, and I'm assuming because of the COVID microchip that everything is kind of halted. So in speaking with them, the thought process is this vehicle is scheduled to be built by the end of November.
The only other thing I'll mention to you is while we talked about those items that were authorized to be purchased prior to June 30th, the only other item that's out there that we're unable to purchase at this point is a tractor for Preston's operation as well. And that is not available to purchase at this time, but I envision we'll be back to you maybe after the first of the year sometime to buy that out of a contingency as well. And just for the record, our contingency balance, if approved with this project, will leave $892,708.
Thank you, Mr. Stamp. Are we ready for a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion that we go ahead and approve the $28,719 out of contingency FY21 for the purchase of a truck for Parks and Rec.
I'll second.
Madam Secretary, would you call the roll?
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Mr. DeVillio,
Aye.
Ms. Price?
Aye.
Mr. Pack?
Thank you.
So while Preston is up here, I would like to, if council doesn't mind, jump down in my report to another item that Mr. Pepper has for you, and that is he is requesting to renew a contract with Coastline Pool Service for 2022 in the amount of $214,000. Coastline Pool Services managed both the George Murphy and the Bay 100 pools last season, and I think Preston can add to it and answer any questions relative to this request. Part of the extension will pay for half the contract out of FY22, which we currently have in place right now in the budget, and then 3 months would be covered in FY23, which would be July, August, September.
Sir, if you remember, this had to do with the fact that we couldn't get enough lifeguards for the pools last year, and we used a pool management company. We actually, in my opinion, it worked out a lot better than I thought. We had nothing but compliments as far as the cleanliness of the pool, the service of the pool. So it was kind of a good workaround all the way around for everybody. I know there's been, Mr. Stamp has even made comments sometimes, lifeguarding is kind of a nerve-wracking thing. You never want to have anything, bad happen at a pool. So, this puts the onus on them. They're able to train their own lifeguards. They're able to train their own water safety instructors, and they're actually able to train their own pool managers, which is kind of a rarity. So this particular company can do everything. We've looked out there for other places, and most of the pool management companies that we've come across, they do mostly just the pool management, the mechanics of the pool. They don't deal with any of the staffing of the pool, so they don't deal with the lifeguards and the swim instructors. So that's why this is such a nice relationship. The other big plus for this company is they have their contract with the Dorchester County Pool. I believe they also have the EASTON Club pools, and it's very possible that they will also be managing the Kent County Pool coming up this next year. So they have a pool of lifeguards that they're able to pull in all different directions. So if they're short one place, they can pull them to another. So it's, like I said, it's kind of a good situation all the way around to have.
How are they able to find the lifeguards and nobody else could?
What they do is they give bonuses for people that recruit their own friends to be lifeguards, and they compensate them with bonuses.
It's a machine. If you look at their website, the Facebook pages that they do, it's almost on par with a temp agency. It worked out.
That's
So,
great.
yeah.
That's wonderful.
The other part that's nice is we've always struggled with pool managers in the past, and I think this is what's the plus this year. We've always tried to have youth managing youth, which is never a good thing. It's just most of them are, either classmates or a couple years older, a couple years younger. So with this particular company, Josh, who is, he's co-owner, I think, of it, he spent quite a bit of time actually physically out at the pool to have a presence out there, and that's why we didn't have a lot of these overlapping staffing, too many people, and, things going on at the pool that shouldn't have been going on at the pool.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve Coastline Pool Services operation and maintenance of both the George Murphy and Bay Under pools FY22, approximate sum of $214,000.
Second.
Madam Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Mr. DeVillio?
Aye.
Ms. Price?
Aye.
Mr. Pat?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Preston. The next item I have, I would like to invite Mr. Rory Myers up from St. Michael's in Geneva Chapel. If they could come forward. So Mr. Myers and Geneva here. Is that right? We good?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Mr. Council Vice President, what you have here is a letter, they're requesting a letter, St. Michael's Climate Change Sea Level Rise Commission for a grant application to the Maryland Department of Natural Resources for the pilot design project for mitigation sea level rise and stormwater flooding and its economic impact on St. Michael's Harbor. What I would say and lead up, and then of course I'll hand it over to you to talk to council about this, Rory.
Okay.
But as the council knows, we are invested into community resiliency and our 5 pillars to address that support our community. And one of those is infrastructure. And we, as recent as a couple weeks ago, last week, we saw again firsthand we were one high tide away from a fairly catastrophic situation. And so it is something that we face with the Bay 100, and everyone knows it. So welcome, and we'll turn it over to you for your request.
Oh, thank you very much. You all put in a tough meeting. You're a long meeting. You're hanging in there very well.
This is nothing compared to some of
What? This is an easy one? Well, good. I'm glad. Earlier this year, the town of St. Michael's created the Climate Change Sea Level Rise Commission. And the purpose of that was to have a group that would focus on sea level rise and the impact of that on our harbors, and come up with grants and projects to put in place over the next 15 years that would mitigate the impact of sea level rise on the town, looking towards the projected sea level rise in 2050. We did a year ago, we completed a harbor and infrastructure study for the main Miles Harbor in town, and there were 8 areas that were defined that by 1950 will be underwater most of the time or underwater all of the time. That really got the attention of the commissioners, and it has brought the town together to focus on this whole area. I also participate in the Talbot County update of the hazard mitigation and resilience plan, and had gotten a lot of support of the impact of sea level rise and climate change and the whole sea level rise on our area, and have had a lot of support about making sure that gets support of that into the Talbot County rewrite of the plan. There have been a lot of support and a lot of good discussions about that. So the Climate Change and Sea Level Rise Commission, with the support of the town, is going forward with 2 more DNR grant projects to try to start addressing this issue. The first area we're looking at is Harbor Road and West Harbor Road and East Chew Avenue. It's right at the end of the harbor in St. Michael's. It floods regularly. The police have to cordon it off regularly. It is access to a number of homes. It's access to the Harbor Inn. It's access to the town slips and parking in that area. You mentioned the flooding a couple weeks, a week ago, I guess now. And I measured the water at the highest point where there's a waterman shack, and it was 1.5 foot. If you go to the lower point, it was 3 to 4 feet above that area. So if we're going to really address that area, we have to dig into that area and do a detailed engineering design. So the first grant we're looking for is what the DNR calls an Outcome 3 grant, which is to do a detailed engineering design to look at that whole area and look at the most feasible way we could engineer fixing that area. And there are two aspects of it. One is you got to do the sea level. The other side is there's some big stormwater pipes that come down from Talbot Road and come down from Meadow Road that empty right into the harbor. So if the sea level goes up and there's no way for that water to go up, the water just would back up behind it. So it's not an easy situation to do. The initial strategy was proposed was to do some sort of berm with some sort of cistern to connect the stormwater behind it. We want this grant to do a lot more than that because we want them to look at maybe there are ways we should be looking at raising the road, maybe there are ways we should be raising the bulkhead, maybe it's a step approach, but we're going to have to really it's going to have to be some very intensive design to figure out how you address both issues. So the Outcome 3 grant we're going forward with now is to ask for funding for detailed engineering design in that area. And that's the first area that was recommended to be looked at in our studies.
And this is the first request. You have actually a second request for another letter, is that correct?
Right.
So council, they are asking for a letter of request. This would obligate no county funds, and this would be a letter of support for their grant application.
Yeah, we're asking for a letter of, Talbot County is supporting St. Michael's grant, and we would include a letter, hopefully, from you in our grant request as one of the supporting letters for the grant.
To DNR, correct?
To DNR.
And Ms. Schaffel is here to tell us that supporting this would be in concurrence with our hazard mitigation plan.
Correct. So our current hazard mitigation plan is a county plan, but it involves all our municipalities. So we've done this in the past also, where we've supported municipality projects that might not, our plans updated every 5 years. So within that 5-year cycle, studies come about, new projects come about, so we want to continue to support them. And our current update, which will be next year, is including supporting these discussions that we're having around this project.
Thank you very much.
Can we take the two of these together?
Yeah,
do you want to discuss the second one?
The
briefly?
second grant, the first study we did was for the main harbor on the St. Michael's side. The St. Michael's actually has 2 harbors. So we have a harbor on Back Creek, which is Santo Domingo Creek, which goes down to the Chop Tank. That has become a very strong area for canoeing, paddleboarding, all sorts of things. We have a big waterman's dock there with 12 watermen. We also have a number of streets that go down to that, West Chew, Gray Street, Canton Street, all of which were dramatically flooded 2 weeks ago. So one of the things that always concerned me is we did all this for the big harbor. There are a lot of residents and people on the other side of St. Michael's that aren't as noticed as much, but they're equally as important. So if we're as a town going to have projects where we prioritize projects and money, we ought to do it for the entire community. And we ought to do a similar study for the San Domingo Creek side, so the commissioners have a view of exactly all the areas that will be hit in St. Michael. So the second grant is an Outcome 2 grant, a coastal hazard grant, requesting funding to analyze that area, look at where it's going to be impacted by sea level rise, and come up with schematics and strategies on how we could ameliorate in that area. So there are 2 grants. Those are the 2 grants we're looking for.
We're ready for a motion for the two letters of support.
Yeah, I just have one question. How long does it take, the last one that we had, how long did it take for that water to recede?
Normally, it recedes fairly quickly, but the last weekend was very unusual. When I was there with Isabel, the water went up and down in 24 hours. The last weekend, we had 4 successive days where the water was up above, far above normal range. The 29th, it was actually the second highest flooding we've had since Isabel. It was up to almost 4 feet above normal sea level, 4 to 4.5 feet. Isabel was 6 feet. So what is very unnerving or strange, or however you want to look at it, is it's one thing to have something come up and go down in 24 hours. It's another thing to have significantly higher tides than normal. I mean, I don't mean significantly, dramatically higher tides than normal over a 4-day period. So what happened is the tide went down, it never got below normal high tide. And then it went back up again. And it's interesting to have it when it's, there's no rain, there's no storm. It's just, the water's just coming up. So it was very, very dramatic.
Was there any property damage last week?
I'm sorry?
Any property damage?
There was quite a bit of property damage, the docks. A lot of the boards were torn up on the docks and that type of thing. What?
Residential, I'm sorry, my throat is really...
The water, luckily, it got up on the front doorsteps of a couple of the homes on West Harbor Road, but it didn't get in the homes yet. The Crab Claw, no telling, they had like 4 or 5 feet of water. The Crab and Steakhouse over on the St. Michael side they had 4 foot of water in their kitchen. The marina where I was at, the water was up about 1 foot in the dock house. So I don't think we totally know all the things that happened yet.
Several buildings at the Maritime Museum.
Yeah.
Really?
I apologize. I drove right through St. Michael's during that high tide to go down to Tillman to look for damage, and it wasn't on St. Michael's Road, so I figured everything was, because it always seems to flood right there with the heavy rains, but.
Well,
Yes, I didn't even think to
the
ride
heavy
through there. I
rains,
apologize.
the heavy rains, what happens is some of the sewer pipes on Talbot
Yeah.
Street can't control it, and it just goes up. What does happen, however, is the water in the harbor backs up to Church Street, right behind the Episcopal Church and the post office, and that was completely flooded by about 2 feet. If Isabel got up to the main street, but this one didn't.
Are we ready for motion?
Yep, I'll make a motion that we support, send both letters in support for the St. Michael's climate change, sea level rise, just with the commissioners.
Second?
Madam Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Mr. DeVillio?
Aye.
Ms. Price?
Aye.
Mr. Pat?
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And council, I have the last item of business that I have prior to announcements. I'll invite Dave Edwards, our Human Resources Director, forward. So on this item, we're requesting to enter into a contract with the Alera Group for a comprehensive compensation study analysis. As you read in your agenda packet, we're requesting council approval to award compensation study to Alera Group in the amount of $71,825. There are sufficient funds that were budgeted for this, and this does address of our 3P work plan, meaning people, processes, and projects, and specifically under people, the retention and recruitment of personnel. Certainly they're a key component to our operation, and this would allow us to take a deep dive look into where we stand. I've asked David to come in and just give a cursory overview of what the study would entail. David.
Thanks, Clay. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all about the compensation study. In the fiscal year 22 budget, County Council allocated $75,000 for the compensation study for Talbot County government. The last compensation study was completed in 2002. We're requesting to move forward with the selection of a compensation consultant, a consulting partner, that will assist Talbot County with 4 main deliverables. One is we want to gather benchmark compensation data related to the market for all of our full-time positions at Talbot County. Secondly, we want to conduct an analysis of the current grade step pay system. This includes looking at overall competitiveness, how our jobs are grouped within the grades, and compression issues, which has really happened over the years. Third, we'll look to improve the employee performance evaluation process as well. And finally, we want to ensure that employees understand the full value of their compensation and benefits in what's called a total reward statement. This is an electronic statement that we put together for all of our full-time employees, which really will highlight the value of our benefits program in addition to compensation. So the main purpose of the project, as Clay mentioned, is to better enable us to attract and retain talent to operate county government. We recommend the compensation study be awarded to the Alera Group in the amount of $71,825. The Alera Group is the sole source procurement for, it's a parent company of a longtime partner of ours, Avon Dixon. There are benefits brokers, and they focus really on benefits and workers' comp for us. The estimated timeline of the project would be approximately 3 months, and then the Alera Group will come forward when they're ready, after internal reviews first, and present the findings to the County Council for consideration in advance for the fiscal year 23 budget process. So it's lining up well. We're on schedule to be able to do that. That's what I had.
Any questions for Ms. Rex?
I think 20 years is long enough to wait. It's probably time to do an update.
That's right.
I didn't mean to make a run.
Exactly.
So I'll make a motion that we accept the bid to go to Alera Group.
I'll second.
Third.
Third.
Is that going to be in our new rules and procedures, thirds?
No.
You were quick on
We're
that.
keeping it simple.
Madam Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Mr. DeVillio?
Aye.
Ms. Price?
Aye.
Mr. Pack?
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. Yeah, and again, thank you, council, for your continuing support for our projects to push us forward. Under announcements, I have several. The first one is there will be a continuation of Mr. Dan Watson's presentation. That his first portion of his presentation was on October 12th. There will be a follow-up on his presentation on Resolution 308, Monday, December 13th, 2021 at 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. in the Bradley Meeting Room. Next announcement I have is I received word from the State Highway Administration. Council will recall that you've had over the years numerous requests addressing Route 329, and there was specifically a request for SHA's consideration to lower the speed limit on that road because we've had a number of crashes, as you all know, all too well, that the ditches on both sides of those that road are very steep, and anyone that runs off the road, it's usually a pretty serious accident. We were advised from Mr. Ken Fender, the district engineer, that the State Highway Administration's Office of Safety reviewed this, and they did not authorize the reduction of speed limit. However, this being said, Mr. Fender said that they will continue to work from an engineering perspective to level and wedge the roadway and work on ditches to do their best. And he wanted me to convey that to council. The next item I have is announce the issuance of bid 2112 at the direction of County Council. Request for proposals for the removal of county-owned Confederate monument from Talbot County Courthouse Green, 11 North Washington Street, Easton, Talbot County, Maryland. Sealed proposals are due Friday, November 19th, 2021 at 10 a.m. to the county manager's office. All bid documents can be found on the county's website. And then finally, I'll mention the county office will be closed this Thursday, November 11th, out of respect for Veterans Day. And that completes the county manager report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stamp. Our next item is public comments, but I see an empty meeting room in the public section of the meeting room.
Maybe our stenographer might want to comment?
Do we have, I presume we don't have anybody signed up for public comment at this point. Okay. So that takes us on to council comments. Mr. Pack?
Yes, let me get myself composed. I heard earlier today that this council lost one of its former members, that in the person of Ms. Nancy Clem. Ms. Clem, I believe, was the second female to serve on this council after Ms. Sylvia Gannon served as, I believe, the first councilwoman going back to the early 70s, I believe. I knew Ms. Clem. I had the pleasure of meeting her when I first came on board the council. Of course, I knew Ms. Gannon very well as well. So I just want to extend my condolences to her family and her passing, and wish them all love and support. And also want to say to our veterans, as we observe Veterans Day this coming Thursday, to all those who serve in the community, we thank you for your service. I don't think we have any vets here on the council, I don't believe, but any staff members in the county and county government who served in our armed forces, want to wish them a very happy Veterans Day and thank them for their service to this country. And that's all I have.
Ms. Price?
Just a few events that we've had recently. On the 29th of October, most of council went to the mayor's prayer breakfast, so I wanted to thank Mayor Willie for putting together a nice event. It was nice to go. After missing, the event last year that we weren't able to have it, it was very well attended and nice to see everybody again. Last week we had our annual consolidation meeting with all of the transportation administrators, and that was a very good presentation and I think a very good discussion with our delegates, and the council had really good communication with all of them. And looking forward to finally having the 50th Waterfowl Festival this upcoming weekend. I don't think Friday's going to cooperate too much with the weather, but other than that, hopefully it'll be a wonderful event and that we'll see everybody out and about again.
Just two quick points. As I mentioned earlier with the high school scholarships, when you go to one of the scholarship night awards, they call it awards nights at the schools, there are a tremendous amount of scholarships that are $1,500, $500, $2,000 that are book scholarships, all the way up to tens to 50,000. You hear incredible amounts of donations or scholarships that the students are earning. And a lot of those are fundraised right here locally at Hogneck Golf Course, the Talbot Country Club, playing golf tournaments, doing different types of outings, 5Ks, lots of those events. So when you see those events, focus on that you're actually giving back and helping what's Kelly call it, raise our own or grow our own programs. And the same is going to go for Waterfowl Festival. The Waterfowl Festival, there will be a tremendous amount of vendors. When they sell something, part of those proceeds go back to the Waterfowl Festival. Part of those proceeds for many organizations go into their scholarships funds. The Lions Club that's out selling food. The Elks Lodge that has the whole sportsman banquet, tents and everything out there. They're selling these foods, and a lot of that money, those delicious crab cakes, are raising funds to go back to the community. So please, as you can, try to support those as much as possible. And now for the most important message, happy birthday, Mom. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scalia. I want to update the public on the work toward moving the Talbot Boys Monument. As we heard tonight, we've sent out an RFP for offers for companies that would move the monument and restore the courthouse square behind it. Staff have also met with the Midshore Community Foundation regarding the funds collected to pay for the move and how and when those funds would be transferred to the county to cover the costs of the move. No public monies will be required or authorized as was set out in the resolution to move the monument. The bids to move are due in 2 weeks, as we heard tonight, just prior to the next council meeting, so council can act to award that bid. In addition, staff have reached out to representatives of the Save the Monument Group, alerting them of the time frame if an alternative location is to be proposed. The county also issued a press release regarding the RFP and has posted the relevant information on its website. And just wanted, for sake of transparency, to note all those efforts that in due diligence have been moving forward. Staff have also been busy with me in planning the county's method for allocating the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, funds. Following best practices for this, we are in the process of designing a survey to collect public input on priorities, given the flexibility of this funding, which can be applied to infrastructure, it can be applied to businesses or nonprofits impacted by the pandemic, and much more. This public input will likely be collected in December and should be available to act on our initial allocation shortly early in the new year. I too took note of the passing of former council member Nancy Clem, who served both on this body and then subsequently on the Easton Town Council following the death of Mayor Murphy. And she actually encouraged me in my entry into public service. So remembering the service of Nancy Clem. I want to alert my colleagues in the council and the public that I will not be present for the November 23rd meeting, our next meeting, and will vote for matters on that agenda by sealed ballot. And that takes us to the end of our agenda. The County Council's next meeting will be held on Tuesday, November 23rd, beginning at 6:00 p.m. The council will be convening in open session at 4:30 p.m. and immediately adjourning into closed session to discuss real estate, legal, and personnel matters as listed on the statement for closing that meeting. On Tuesday, November 16th, the County Council will be holding our annual meeting with the local delegation, comprised of Senator Eckert, Delegate Adams, and Delegate Mounts, to discuss the state's upcoming legislative session. That meeting begins at 6:00 p.m. and will also be held here in the Bradley meeting room. The meeting is open to the public. And with nothing further on our agenda, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
Madam Secretary, would you call the roll?
No third?
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Mr. DeVillio?
Aye.
Ms. Price?
Aye.
Mr. Pack?
Thank you all.